I, 43 male, accidentally insulted my partner, 43 female, and she has remained cold ever since. And she wears sweats all the time now. We've been a couple for 7 years. I only now realize we both view her very differently. From my perspective, she's never been interested in fashion at all. Always wears black jeans. She has dozens of black tops. She doesn't wear makeup, doesn't get her nails done, only does root touch-ups. And I love her and don't care about this at all. From her perspective, apparently, she dresses elegantly and minimalistic. She says she's always wearing no makeup. I guess she means mascara, not sure. She says she pays the salon every month to color her hair, or it would be gray. The reason this all came up is that we met up with friends, and one of the women is very fashionable, always done up. I had mentioned in passing to my partner that I loved that she, the other woman, wore vibrant colors. My partner had said she personally isn't a fan of bright colors, and in the past, when she has tried to wear them, she doesn't like how it looks. I told her if I was a beautiful woman, I'd wear bright colors for attention, and that's probably why our friend does it. Anyways, this was the gist of the conversation. If my partner was getting upset, I wasn't picking up on that. I honestly don't even recall what I was saying that made her mad, but she ended up annoyed with something. I was truly confused, but we ended up in an argument. I told her that based on how she looks, I had no idea she even cared about looks or fashion. She was getting really angry at me, which tends to make me mad too. So I told her that if she cares that much, to my surprise, she should present herself better. She insisted I tell her what I meant, and so I told her that she dresses boring and it makes her look old and dumpy. I also told her I don't care at all, but since she appears to, she should try to dress more fashionable. This was 3 weeks ago, and she was very angry with me. Now she's not angry, but she's remained cold, and she now has taken to dressing in sweatpants and sweatshirts. She says she won't be dressing nice around me anymore, but I never thought she dressed nice in the first place. Obviously, I put my foot in my mouth and I have apologized, but she doesn't care. She says she won't forget what I said. I really just want her to drop this. Is this something that needs therapy or just time?
I got back at my cheating boyfriend by flirting with my dad. Story time. So me and Steve had been dating for a few months before I started to suspect that he was cheating on me. He'd very often hide his phone and be unavailable at the most random times. Then when I'd asked him where he'd been, he would have no explanation for me. So one night when he was staying at mine, I looked over when we were in bed. He's texting on his phone and I'm like, who is he talking to? And I see him talking to a girl on Facebook Messenger. First of all, who uses Facebook Messenger anymore? Now, I knew that Steve was in a Facebook group chat, like a group for bikers, because he was big into his biking, you know. And I was like, great, this is the perfect place to get revenge. So I was going all in, lads. I created a fake profile picture using AI and I requested to join the group. I'm in. I was trigger happy. I was going mad sending friend requests to every single person in this group. Now, as soon as Steve accepts my friend request, I know it's game time. Less than a week after he accepted my friend request, he messages me. His opening line was, I have never seen a more beautiful biker in my life. He immediately asked if he could meet up with me. My guy moves quick. So I thought, you know what, I'll just see how far he goes. I told him that I did actually have a boyfriend. And he instantly replied and was like, oh, don't worry, I also have a girlfriend, but nobody needs to know. And after that, it got very explicit very quick. I was in the mood for evidence because I knew the little rat would try and deny it. Now, whilst all this is going on, another guy called Dave messages me. He was one of the people that I'd sent a little friend request to, but he didn't have a profile picture. His page was also on private as well. He was very polite. He started asking about how I'd been. And I thought, well, what have I got to lose? So I was like, listen, Dave, I've recently found out my boyfriend's cheating on me, so I'm not doing that well. Oh, he was so lovely in his response. He was encouraging me to leave him, building me up. And this chat with Dave actually really helped. The next morning, I confronted Steve with all of my evidence. Of course, he tries to put the blame on me. A massive argument, and he blocked me on everything. So me and Dave got a really good rapport going actually. We really trusted each other at this point, so I decided to speak to him about it, and he was so patient and attentive and calm. He texted me every single morning telling me to have a good day, and as the conversations went on, time progressed, we started to get a little bit more flirty. We were adding spice to the conversation. One day, Dave was like, listen, we've been chatting for a while. I would really like to meet up with you. So we arranged to meet up in a cafe at the weekend. Fast forwards, I'm at the date. I'm ready. I'm looking good. I text Dave and let him know what table I was at the cafe. So I'm sitting there feeling all cute or whatever. And I see a very familiar motorbike pull up. So Dave walks into the cafe with his helmet on. He walked straight over to my table. And when he took his helmet off, standing in front of me was my dad. And the only thing he said to me before walking away was, please don't tell your mom.
Am I the astronaut for wanting to divorce my postpartum wife? With 2 updates. It's stupid to think I'm at this point, but here I am. My soon-to-be ex-wife, 28 female, and I, 29 male, have wanted kids for years and were thrilled when she finally got pregnant last year. From day one, I wanted to be the most supportive husband and future father that I could. Her father was never involved in her life. I used to work as a tech in labor and delivery, and my brother, to put it kindly, is not the most involved father. I saw too many problems up close when it came to lacking husbands, and I would be damned before I made the same mistakes. The problem is, roughly 4 weeks into her pregnancy, everything started going downhill. She stopped wanting sex, fair enough. Hormones and stress make that a problem. I went full stop. But then she didn't want any physical interaction. No cuddling, no kissing, slowly becoming more and more distant. Her eating constantly changed, and she was terrible about it. She would demand I get her something all day, then the moment I give it to her, she wants something else, screaming at me. Okay, again, hormonal issues, I get it, no problem. She never let me go to any appointments, no groups she went to, spent more time away, became cold and bitter, constantly angry at me. This went on for months. Slapped me a couple of times when I forgot one of her dozens of tasks she assigned me during the day. Stopped doing anything for the house a month into pregnancy. Sure, she's pregnant, I get it, moving around is hard, but she wouldn't even do laundry about 4 weeks in, and by 5 weeks, I did everything. I'm also the primary source of income. I barely sleep. I'm running on fumes. Made me sleep in the guest room. Would always try to pick fights. I never raised my voice, my hand, or my tone. I sat there and constantly mentally reminded myself that this isn't her, and this would all be worth it. She didn't want me to make any baby decisions. No name, no work on the nursery, nothing. 1 month before she delivered, she yelled how effing useless I am and how I didn't do anything and that she's staying with her mother. She didn't let me get her anything, come check on her, threatened to divorce me and get a restraining order if I even called her. A couple of weeks back, I found out about the birth of my son from a Facebook post. She posted it with her mother and some family. It broke me. I tried to go to the hospital to visit. They had security kick me out. After months of outright hatred, anger, and abuse thrown at me 24/7, I had it. Odds are I'm not even on the birth certificate. I opened a new account and all of my deposits go there. I took half of our joint account money. She never bought baby stuff ahead of time. Who knows what that money was going towards? So now that she has to buy supplies for her son, she's used up every cent. I've gotten a lawyer. The house is mine. I'm the only one who spent money on it anyway. I've sent the rest of her stuff to her mother's house. I'm demanding a paternity test. I'm not spending another damn cent until I get verification that it's my son. I am absolutely divorcing her. She chose the stay-at-home life. If she's cheated, she's screwed. Her mother has money for a couple weeks stay, not even close to enough for full-time support. If he is my son, I will absolutely be getting my rights as father for a relationship. Last week, my soon-to-be ex called. She was practically hyperventilating. She wanted to come home. She was crying how it was all a mistake. She's not staying with her mother. She's at a friend's house. She wants to come home. She wants our son to have his father. I told her I don't believe he is my son. Why the would she pull this shit if he is? Show me a paternity test and I'll do everything I can for him and him only. She wants to meet tomorrow at a park so I can talk to her. I said sure, so I can finally say everything I should have said months ago to her face. My parents are hoping that we can make up, but they absolutely understand if I won't. My brother is a deadbeat jackass, so I don't care what he has to say, but my sister thinks I should at least hear her out. Update, it got complicated. Got complicated? It was already way complicated. Before I ended up chatting with her, I opened up to my parents and sister about what was happening in detail. My parents were flustered at me hiding the more unsavory details, to say the least, and are probably going to be checking up on me daily for the rest of the year to make sure I'm okay. My sister probably would have to be held back from thrashing her, so I had to get a friend to help with the chat since my sister would not be able to contain herself. So basically, within hours of the story going into the digital stratosphere, I called my wife back as quickly as I could to finally sit down and talk. We chose a local park this morning, and I had a friend of mine record the conversation from beginning to end. I was basically ready to hear the generic affair story and get out of Dodge. But of course, it got complicated. We met at a section with picnic tables and picked one as far away from other people as to avoid them getting wrapped up in any awkwardness. She looked terrible, haggard, stressed, and thankfully without the baby. She tried to have the big emotional chat and whatnot. I wasn't tearing up or acting like the hardened badass. I frankly was just wanting to figure out what this was all for. I didn't even get to ask the question before the floodgates spilled. I'm going to attempt to relay the story as best I can, because even looking back on the recording, it's a mess, but also it's because I don't 100% believe it. So fair warning, it could all be fake. This all started with her mother. As I said before, my wife's father was absent. He started off well, having 2 sons with her mother before her. When her mother got pregnant with her father went from being the picture-perfect guy he was at first and slowly changed into a negligent, abusive, unfaithful, and unsupportive jackass, ending with him disappearing when her mother was delivering. He's been in and out of prison since. No one knows why he did it. The impression her mother always gave me was a strong, resilient woman who withstood anything life threw at her and did anything for her kids. She has claimed to be in therapy for years. In reality, she has managed to conceal a deep hatred for men from outside of her sons. But according to my wife, there was favoritism towards her. My wife also found out she stopped therapy almost a decade ago, but never told anyone. Her mother seemed to always have some slight against me, and now I know why. She was never hostile, but certainly wasn't warm to me, and hearing about her secret hatred, I kind of knew where this was going. Roughly about half a year before she got pregnant, my mother-in-law slowly began sowing seeds of doubt and bitterness into my wife. Apparently, she had a full mental break. She told her about me staying late at work, possibly having an affair, or that I am providing the majority of the income, setting her up for a hard divorce. Everything my mother-in-law's husband did to her, she convinced my wife I would do to her, and she pumped this poison into her for months. My wife always idolized her mother, and compounding that with anxiety she suffered for years, she dove in deep. As soon as she got pregnant, like on the dot, she fell into a mental hole within days, and that's when her mother got a hold of her again. Hearing about her pregnancy apparently triggered something fierce in my mother-in-law, and it spiraled from there. She had my wife fully convinced it was happening again. Every single thing my wife did to hurt me was at the behest of my mother-in-law. Combined with pregnancy hormones, an undiagnosed mental illness she claims to have, no confirmation, and stress, she completely lost her mind. She 100% believed that I would bail, so she was punishing me first, culminating in her moving in with her mother and leaving me out of the birth. When I was sending the papers and starting the divorce proceedings, she kicked into full-blown postpartum depression. And when her mother finally got her, when she finally beat me, which I guess was her victory over her ex, did I mention she's effing crazy, she had no more use for my wife. The family involved in the birth included my mother-in-law's sister and my wife's brothers. While my mother-in-law and her sister knew what was going on, my brother-in-laws got fed the BS narrative my mother-in-law spun. When my mother-in-law was done with her plan, the entire facade came down and my brother-in-laws found out everything upon questioning my wife. They were horrified. Needless to say, postpartum, facing a very grueling divorce on her side, no longer welcome in our home, and having done everything to alienate me from my son at the behest of a broken lunatic really hit her like a truck. She torched her entire life because her mother is a broken shell of a human who used her to enact her own sense of justice. The very mother who washed her hands of her after she got what she wanted. Or at least, this is the story she gave me. Frankly, there are many holes in her story. The starting point of the pattern of abuse, the claims of who was involved in the delivery, my being absent from appointments, the friend who she confirmed is female she's staying with, and of course my alleged son's paternity. It seems way too crazy to be made up. Who the hell would go to the effort of making this up, facing what she's facing? As soon as she's finished, she said she's setting up a paternity test and gave me the info I need. Within luck, it should be done in roughly a week or so once I do my part. She gave the most sincere apologies any human has ever given. She begged for another chance. I was frankly too stunned to say anything, so I left and promised to call soon. I don't think I can give her another chance. I don't think I can ever risk anything like this again. God, I'm still hoping that she's just being a cheating psycho and spinning a sympathy story to try to throw me off, because this got way too complicated. There's an update. We got one more update here. Well, this was all a fantastic waste of time. This is full of stupid information that doesn't matter, so here's what happened, condensed. It took me way longer than it should have to realize I should actually call someone who saw her behavior when she left firsthand. I called one of her brothers. I basically word vomited and relayed the whole story and asked what they can verify. They could not. What actually happened, she started having an affair with a coworker roughly 4 months before she got pregnant. He gave her the AP spiel about how he was better and she should go with him when she got pregnant. She immediately gets it in her head to abuse me, usual affair crap, eventually wanting to run off with him. The day she left, she did stay at her mother's, but had all the intention to move in with him after giving birth. Before she delivers, she owns up and tells her family everything. My mother-in-law and brother-in-laws couldn't care at the time. They may not be crazy, but they still didn't like me, and from what she was selling to them about her AP, they liked him. AP was at the birth. Hi, and tried to start a fight with them. But then wife already did a paternity test, and it was his. AP then disappears, and she realizes she's... We have a solid prenuptial on my house as premarital, plus we live in an at-fault state. Around that time is when I called her out and split finances. She was deep in a hole with no way out. And in her mind, pitching a drama show about her family to me made sense to get me on her side. What was the plan for my paternity test? I don't know. What was she planning for whenever I interacted with family again? I don't know. Why did her family go along with it? I don't know. How is she ever going to make up for the abuse? I don't know. Is there any truth to her tale about her mother? I have no idea. I don't care at this point. This whole problem was a desperate person and her toxic family gambling everything on a no-show, and only when they had burned all bridges with me did they try to reconnect. I'm glad I called the brother who had any decency to own up to their nonsense. He realized how in deep he was and that his sister didn't help with that, and he's finally done with his family's crap and wants to get away. He gave me a copy of the paternity test that she gave him. He sent dozens of messages she had with him and the family in the group chat. I have enough proof for my lawyer to bury her. I texted her and told her I knew everything. She's been messaging me relentlessly with the most vile things she could say. I'm just forwarding it all to my lawyer. I'm still in awe to how she tried to pull a last resort manipulation tactic with the story about her family. It's actually kind of disturbing, but that doesn't really concern me now. Locks are changed. Finances are already separated. I'm not on the birth certificate, and my divorce is getting ready to start. Probably will have no updates for a long time. Divorces take way longer than Reddit makes it seem like. In any way, this was the best case scenario, and I'm actually giddy that I have a clean break. Huge sigh of relief. She could have at least told me the truth and spared the pointless drama update. LOL.
So I had to hop on this trend because I could literally make a whole entire series about all the experiences I have had growing up, especially in the house that I grew up in. But I'll start with one really creepy story that literally gave me chills and still freaks me out to this day. When I was younger, my family had Korean exchange students that lived in our house, and one of the students shared a room with me, so we had a bunk bed, and she took the bottom and I took the top. And during this time, my dad had removed all of the doors to all the rooms in our basement because we were getting new carpet. And so I wanted a little bit more privacy. So for Christmas, my grandma gifted me some door beads, but they didn't come to the floor all the way. They were about a foot off of the floor. And my sister Callie would always come in and just steal my clothes, my makeup, whatever she wanted to use. And I was a pretty light sleeper, so she would slide under the door beads to come in the morning before school and to not wake me up. There was one particular night where my exchange student was visiting her uncle in another state for Thanksgiving, so I was alone in my room. It was nighttime, everybody was in bed, and it was dark, and I heard my door beads. So I looked over, and I see what looks like my sister, just like her silhouette, and she's got long, curly hair, and she was crawling on all fours with her hair, and her hair was like hanging in front of her face, and she was crawling on all fours, sliding under the door beads, and I could see the door beads like hitting against her back as she slid under. And once she got under, she like hurried to the end of my bed where the closet was at the foot of my bed. So I was thinking to myself, like, oh, I caught her in the act this time. I'm going to totally tell her that I knew she was stealing my clothes. So I snuck to the edge, to the end of the bunk bed. And I just like, wow, like tried to scare her. And when I looked over the end of my bed, there was nobody there. So I just started screaming, and then my sister ended up running down the hall, and she came in and turned on my light, and she's like, what? And I was just like, and I just freaked out and told her what had happened. But that was one time that was super, super creepy.
Here's a huge problem with living in a large condo building. You don't know who else from your past moved into the same building. 8 years ago, I go on a date with this guy, and while we're on the date, I'm like, I'm not really vibing with him, but you know who would? My roommate. So go through the whole day, have to make out with him on a street corner while hailing a cab. Who else has done that? And you're like, oh my God, my cat. Anyway, I get home, I say to my roommate, I'm like, I think you would love the guy I went on a date with, and I show her him. It's like, oh my God, I've already matched with him on Tinder, and I'm talking to him too. I'm like, amazing. I'm gonna phase him out, and now you ask him on a date. Online dating was kind of new. We're like, none of these relationships are gonna go anywhere. Like, if we run into the problem where later we have to tell this guy whatever, but if you bring him over, I'll just hide in my room. If I have to pee, I'll just come out with a face mask on. He won't know. She kind of ramps up the conversation with him, and now I'm just ghosting him. Except I couldn't ghost him. He was from Australia. I don't know what they're thinking down there. I'm not responding for weeks at a time, and he's going, I just want to know if you think this is going to go anywhere, blah, blah, blah. And he sends me like 10 messages that I haven't responded to, and I'm like, babe, this part of the world, if someone doesn't respond to you for 2 weeks, you just let it go. After one date, it's not like I took your virginity and like met your mom. He starts talking to him, and she's like, I feel like maybe it's kind of weird if he's like this obsessed with you to like push for this date. Like, and I'm like, I don't think he's obsessed with me. I think he just like doesn't get what's going on. He's met me one time. I didn't even put out. I gave him the least you can give someone, which is making out with them with their arm in the air. Taxi! Anyway, I turned out to be right, because then she ghosts him, and he does the same thing to her. He sends her like 10 messages. I just want to know where I went wrong. Like, what's going on? And by the way, this is my least favorite quality in a person. Someone doesn't want anything to do with you, like whether it's a friend or lover or whatever. Like, if I'm icing you, sometimes you just don't get an answer. That's life, babe. You don't get to always harass someone into telling you didn't feel it. Like, just fuck off. Eventually my roommate feels bad or something, so she says to him, hey, me and my roommate just realized we've actually both been talking to you. Realize you went out with Sam, so now I just feel like this just isn't gonna work. I gave her the okay to do that. I was like, you should do that, because then maybe he'll be like, uh-oh, I look like a fuckboy. I'm just gonna peace out. He starts hitting me up again, and he's like, oh my God, I had no idea that you lived with Annie. I'm so sorry. And meanwhile, I'm like, scroll up. I literally haven't responded to you in like 2 to 3 weeks. Obviously don't care that you're messaging my roommate. In his mind, that's why I stopped responding. So I'm like, well, this fucking backfired. I didn't want to be mean, but I was like, babe, it was a handoff. Like, I gave her full permission. I never wanted to see you again. It goes on for a couple more weeks where he's just messaging me being like, is there any chance, whatever. Finally, and he didn't follow me on Instagram, but this proves that he stalks me all the time. I posted the conversations on my Instagram story. This was a while ago. And I was like, PSA to people, if someone doesn't want to talk to you, don't message them this much. I blocked out his name and everything. It's not like I doxed him or anything. Anyway, then he messages me and goes, one of my friends said you posted our conversation on Instagram. I'm like, why would one of your friends know it was you? Like, clearly I didn't put your name or anything. You obviously stalked me. At this point, I'm pissed. So I'm just like, fuck off. I didn't say that. I was just like, yeah, you know what? I think this should be a lesson that maybe if someone doesn't respond to you this many times after this many weeks, you should just let it go, because now it kind of looks like verbal harassment. He stopped talking to me, but I feel like he talked to Annie for a little while after that. Whatever. Again, this is almost a decade ago. Just now, my elevator, I'm looking at this guy, and he makes eye contact with me, and I make eye contact with him, and I'm like, I've never seen you on this elevator before. I'm going, where do I know this guy from? And then I'm like, it's that fucking Australian. Yes, he got his permanent residency and said, I'll move into her building. Like, does he know I live here? No, he obviously doesn't. He really didn't recognize me, because I've gained 45 pounds and have a full mustache now, but I recognized him. And I was like, oh, imagine he recognized me and we had to chat. Hey, how are you? Married. Don't text me. Also, my husband's ex-girlfriend's best friend, I think, lives in this building. And he's like, I think that chick hates me. I'm like, we got to move to a smaller building, because clearly the two of us have fucked around a little too much, and now we've got a Target on our front door. I'm gonna get a package with like a pinky finger in it.
Am I the asshole for taking my straight female friends out to a lesbian bar because they always make me go to gay bars? I'm 26 male and I'm straight. I have a group of friends with a few more women than men. We go out a couple of nights a week. Every time we go out, the girls all insist we end up at a gay bar at the end of the night. To be clear, I don't normally mind, but it's getting excessive. I can't remember the last time they didn't insist we go. And lately, I've been getting hit on a lot, and some of the drunk guys at the bars get very handsy. It's gotten gotten uncomfortable at this point, so I've started leaving early to go home and hang out with other friends. Some of the other guys in the group feel the same way. I tried to bring it up, but they don't listen and accuse me of acting homophobic, which I am not. My sister is bi and suggested our city has a lesbian bar and I should take them there to see how they react. To be clear, this bar does openly welcome straight and cisgendered people, so we weren't violating their space. Anyways, there was a basketball game last night, and this bar sets up a game night whenever our local NBA team is playing. I suggested we go there to watch the game, and most of the group came along. They immediately got really uncomfortable when other women started flirting with them at the bar and offering to buy them drinks. It lasted about an hour before the girls all took off. A couple of the other guys and I actually ended up staying. The women there were all really cool, and we made some new friends. The group chat this morning has been a big argument. The girls all say it was fucked up that we took them there. I told them to stop acting homophobic. The other guys in the chat are mostly supporting me and saying they have no leg to stand on since we always constantly agree to join them at the gay clubs and never complain. I actually want to start going there regularly on game nights. It's a really fun atmosphere and everyone we met was awesome. Am I the asshole?
Something people are always shocked to find out about me is that I worked at a strip club back in 2010. Now, let me clarify, I was a cocktail waitress, not a stripper, but there's nothing wrong if I was. I needed the money, so. And everyone was really nice. And not just nice, but caring. I'm gonna try a new brow product and I'm scared because I always use the same one, Mecca Max Brow Gel. Now, I had a very, very bad experience when I was there. I got essayed by a man. Before some people start commenting like you were asking for it, you were working at a strip club. No, that's not okay. You cannot touch someone when they don't want you to, and if they tell you to stop, you need to stop. Somebody comments that, I will literally... The night that it happened, one of the other waitresses came up to me and said, hey, I'm too busy to take on my regular client. He requested you to take care of him for the night. And she said, he's gonna tip you $1,000, just be nice to him. And I said, okay, sure. Not realizing that this girl was actually this man's girlfriend. Apparently this guy had a bunch of girlfriends, and I guess he was hoping that he would add me to that list. He was really, really nice. He was talking to me about restaurants, taco stands, and really random things. But the thing is, I also had other tables, so I had to keep moving. So when he saw that I kept leaving him to go and tend to my other table, pulled me by my arm, sat me down next to him and said, $500. This is for you to stay with me for the rest of the night. Just, you know, don't worry about anybody else. I'm gonna take care of you. I naively thought that he was just being considerate, trying to let me know, don't worry about your other tables. I'll take care of you. So I went over to the bartender and I let her know that I was gonna be pretty much in one section taking care of this one person. The bartender says, be careful. And I look at her and I'm like, what do you mean? Why? Like, he's super nice. You know, looking back now, I'm like, why wouldn't you just tell me? How beautiful is this? He started asking me about my personal life. And when they started doing that at the strip club, it's because they want to know if you're single or not. He tells his friend that he's with, who I didn't even realize was a bodyguard. So I go from standing to sitting in between these two men. He got handsy and tried to kiss me, or I mean, he did succeed at kissing me. And my instant reaction was to start pushing away. And I probably pushed for about 10 seconds and then he finally let go. I was stunned. Truly, truly stunned. Stunned. And he was stunned that I was stunned and that I pushed away. The look on his face was just of, what do you mean you're pushing me away? How dare you? Oh, not to mention his bodyguard was looking at me like I had just harassed this man for putting my hands on him to tell him not to touch me. I immediately walk over to my favorite security guard and I tell him exactly what happened. And he looks at me and he's like, are you okay? I'm so sorry. Exactly how I expect anybody to react in that situation. He did exactly what I thought he would do. He walks over to this guy. So he just looks at me with this look on his face of like, I have no idea what's happening. I need to find out. And the manager explains to him that this guy is very powerful and that we can't kick him out. Therefore, just let him be. I walk over to the manager and he's like, look, I'm so sorry about what happened to you, but we can't tell this guy to go. It was extremely traumatic. It was extremely traumatic. I went home and I cried. I cried for a week straight. This happening at the time it did helped me realize that the person that I was with at the time was probably not the person that I should be with, because when I told them I'm definitely gonna quit, they said, you know, you just need to get over this. And that confirmed to me that I needed to get out of that relationship, which I did. The waitress who originally told me, he's great, he's gonna tip you really well, be nice, just be nice. Apparently, she knew that he was going to do that because that's something he did with her all the time. Like I said, she was his girlfriend. I didn't know this. I didn't know this information at all. You know, I don't want to say that she set me up or anything because maybe she thought that I knew. She kind of apologized, but not really. I feel terrible that a lot of women go through things like this and it's not exclusive to a strip club. It can happen to you in your workplace or at home or with friends or at a party or at school or at places where you should totally feel safe. And it's horrible. I need to get to bed because I did all of this just to talk to you guys. All right, bye.